I don't know, like, just as somebody who's never been in a space like this, how taken back I am. This is beautiful. You all should be incredibly, incredibly, incredibly proud of yourselves for creating such a warm and accepting environment. I feel like when I was growing up, uh, religion was always shown to me to be this very set thing, this concrete thing. And my grandparents were very religious when they were growing up. And I feel like my grandpa, if he was still here today, would be so proud of me for even being here in an environment like this. I feel like he was like, you did what now? But he would just be so taken back. And I love that we're not hearing a lot of words like sin or repent or anything that's like condemning anybody to feel or think a certain way. But to almost be on that theme and look at it in a different tone, I wanted today to talk about being infertile. I feel like we're all soil. We're all beings that are growing little areas around us, be it our families or our friendships or our romantic relationships or grandkids or just even your neighbors. We're all in charge of growing what is around us. And I wanted to talk about in the recent years, the last two moments I had that were really like epiphanies that led to other growth. In the beginning of today, we had this beautiful breakout session. It was a group talk. And I asked the community, what are you proud of that you've grown? Or where's the last time that you realized that you were still growing? And everybody had very, very, very beautiful answers. The first time that I really realized that I needed to grow or continue to grow, it was 4 years ago. I was in between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo, bouncing back and forth because that's the way I live my life a lot. Is I'm just always in between multiple places, so I never have to really be present in one place. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, be it traveling around or working multiple jobs. But I was in Grand Rapids for about a week, and I was going back to Kalamazoo, and my mom gave me a call on the phone. And she was like, Marcel. And whenever she uses my name, like I know it's trouble. She says, Marcel, I'm on my way up to Michigan from Kentucky. And when she said that, I was like, it's not a holiday. So there has to be something that's like immediate that isn't good that's happening. And she followed that up with, your grandfather is not doing well. He hasn't been doing well for some time. And hospice is there. And they've been there for a little while now. And I immediately started to feel sick to my stomach. I had this heavy feeling in my chest. And I didn't know what I was feeling. I've never had a loved one who was sick or who wasn't doing well. This is my first experience, my first run-in with this. And it felt like I was like claustrophobic and things were shrinking around me. And I tried calling my roommate, and he wasn't answering because he was in Colorado. He asked the week prior, he was like, hey, can I borrow your luggage and whatnot? I got to go out of town. I don't have a lot of people around me who I trust. From how I grew up, I have a lot of trust issues. So I reached out to my significant other at the time, and she wasn't answering. And I continued to call my friend, and he wouldn't answer, and he wouldn't answer, and he wouldn't answer. And when I got home, the walls continued to feel like they were shrinking. And I was pacing, and I was walking around the house, and I was hyperventilating. And I was like, you know what? I just need to lay down and take a nap. And when I walk upstairs and I go in my bedroom, there's a card on my bed. And I think to myself, like, how sweet of my roommate to leave me a card. He must know that I was going to go through something. Like, that's the way it works. He had to have known, right? And I opened this card, and it's my graduation card from my grandfather. And I had never known what it was like to reach insanity or this breaking point. And I start to really hyperventilate, and I start to pace, and I start to pace. And for the first time in my life, I believed in a higher power. I believed in a something above, because how could this card get on my bed? Like out of all times, out of today, more than anything, how could it just be there? How could this letter from him be there? So I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, you're not gonna believe this, but I went home and I was gonna take a nap and I don't know how I'm feeling or what I'm feeling. And there was a card from grandpa on my bed. And she's like, honey, some things just happen. You can't always explain them. That's just the way things are. They happen. And I'm like, no, not like this though. Not like something sitting on my bed. Like that's not real. That's not how things work. Like I'm not a scientist, but cards just don't appear on your bed. And she was telling me like, just I'm almost there. Just wait, just wait, just wait. It's fine. It's fine. Just breathe. And I continue to breathe, but I can't. And I feel like I'm choking. And an hour after me throwing things against the wall because of my automatic reaction is always anger from how I was grown up again, of breaking things in my home. My mom comes home and she's like, all right, we have to go see your grandfather. So we drive the hour and a half to Greenville, Michigan. And my grandmother is like, hey, how are you doing? Trying to smile. Because that's the way she always is trying to smile. And she comes up to me and she's like, the nice hospice lady gave me this pamphlet, and it's a book about how to grieve, and they always give it to you, and I feel like this will help. And I start to read it, and it's going through all the stages of death, and it doesn't help. It makes me a lot more upset, and I continue to cry. I'm like, this is morbid. Why would somebody give you this? This isn't positive at all. And my mom is like, hey, he doesn't have a lot of time left, so why don't you just talk to him and let out whatever you need to let out. I hadn't seen my grandpa in about 4 years. I grew up in a single parent household. I grew up being raised by my mother, but also raised by my grandparents. I was there every single weekend. My mom worked 2 jobs growing up, so she didn't have a lot of time to raise me individually, so my grandparents did. And when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, I couldn't go around and see him because I didn't want to remember him as being anything less than the man that I knew and loved my entire life. So when he started to slip and he started to forget, I didn't want him to forget me, so I couldn't go around. So when I was next to his bed, I was just like, hey, he don't look too hot. But I'm sorry for not being there. And I'm sorry that I haven't been as good of a grandson as you have been a father. And I haven't not came around because of you. It's because of me and because I wasn't strong enough to be there. And I'm sorry that I wasn't strong enough to be there. And if I had a time machine, I would go back and I would be here. I swear that I would be here. And I just wanted to let you know that it wasn't you. It was a me thing and I wasn't strong enough. And I watched his chest stop moving. And then everything was still. And my mom and my grandma said that, like, that's how you know that, like, a soul is like leaving the body. That's how you know that somebody has completely left. And they said that it must have been some kind of magic that he waited until I was there, until I had to say what I had to say. And that really taught me that that's what the higher power is. That's like what the beauty in life is, right? Is that we can wait and we can hold on and we can get closure and we can heal. And like that's beauty and like that's belief. And I wrote this poem to my grandpa and he never got to hear it. And that's really what spirituality is to me. And it's this poem. And I hope that it connects with everybody who needs to hear it. But he was teaching me to shoot when I was little. And he said, aim. Take a deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs with life. Hold it for a moment. Let half of it out. Focus. And slowly squeeze the trigger. Granddad. You will never hear this poem. You will never feel this thank you caressing your eardrums, turning well-weathered spine, clasping your ribs with a death grip like that final hug goodbye with the final you, signifying the bipolar smile of a boy that was taught to love like a gunshot. He said, take aim. Focus. When in a relationship with someone with bipolar disorder, it is key to remember, yet so easy to forget, that the letter U, refrigerator magnet, can also effortlessly be substituted with a lowercase n. And better yet, with the assistance of periods, which can also be substituted with the dots of two lowercase i's, it can all be used to erect a face. Looking at you, displaying a mood you may not have intended to create to my dearest grandmother, you. Smiling. Taught me how to love. And flip it. Even when you were frowning, you still taught me how to love, but flip it. You are also why I hate them. Them being my overly constricting genes, not denim but genetic, yet still blue in the kisser from holding secrets like breath. Making me want to trickle crimson from their zipper lockaways, mentally screaming, stop, every time I heard them prematurely talk about my granddad. As if he'd already punched his last time card. Replaced that overly used couch broken into perfection for ready to be broken in casket to finally be rested in. As I'm still nestled in the memory, still comfort blanketing my mental from seeing him magician my grandmother's frown into blissful happiness as if his fingertip was a magic wand and her lips simply as easy to alter as an alphabet magnet alone in always waiting for the you, magic man, to turn it around, as that is what would instill the memory of him to be everlasting. Not focusing on the eyes, I could never see his gaze sunsetting over the years, only picturing eyes, creating smiles from watching him rope swing, uppercasing smiles on our faces through all of life's up and downs. He capitalized eyes, not focusing on the dots, but yet he still cultivated a pupil or two, young Houdinis, focused on creating smiles from, and he always turned it around when we needed it most. But now I find it so hard to keep wanting, striving, working towards being you, that at times I just want to stay unprepared for this funeral tidal wake of memories with my you being shattered into a past of window pane, rearview mirroring my smiles, and my grandmother being greatly concerned, inquiring if the reason I don't push away people is because of her or because of my family, because I can only smile for so long before I say, well, yeah, I can hear you all forgetting him. Is that love? Is that what we strive a lifetime for? The until death do you part's true meaning. Becoming skinny jeans, seeing vows, turning into a lifestyle, turning into just another trend, making jeans with a G that much easier to rip in a pair of seams, but I think they symbolize my loved ones. Hold it, see, I'm only letting half of it out. Half of us now realize that bipolar and depression genetically run in our family, but so does pushing people away. Through life, we've always shoved pills into gaps, into these little empty pockets within ourselves, but how many capsules does it take to truly feel regret? And why use that when you can get your hands dirty by digging to the bottom of yourself for others by ripping it apart? I smile when I remember my grandfather teaching me to love over a Remington pump action 30-30 rifle. He'd say, aim. Let the air fill your lungs with life. When I now slowly pull the trigger on life decisions, especially in regards to love, I'll remember how his loved ones treated him. Like a quickly fading memory. A bullet so easy to push away and let that boom resonate over eardrums passed down that should have felt me saying thank you a long time ago. I will vow to treat my child like the biological dad I never had. See, granddad, you taught me how to love. And even when frowning, you still taught me how to love. So, granddad, you will never hear this poem. You will never feel this thank you caressing your eardrums, turning well-weathered spine, clasping your ribs with a death grip like that final hug goodbye. But I promise, before time fades and your grandson is settling into black, I will thank you, Magic Man, for teaching me how to perform life's hardest trick. To love the right way. unconditionally before it's boom, gone. Us that we can get. And that's really what I wanted this whole thing to be about. Is it's not only looking at the people that you love that you might have mistreated or you might have forgotten about, but also nurturing yourself. Major part of myself is I used to be a very destructive person as well. That's what we were talking about earlier. I was raised in a single parent household by an incredible single mother. My mom is the best. She is breathtaking. She had the bright idea to record the first 5 years of my life onto cassette tapes. She knew she was going to be a single mother. So she was like, I don't want you to resent me for any choices that I made. So to protect myself from being resented, I'm going to record the first 5 years of your life onto tapes. And I was like, I don't know how you thought that far in advance, but like, really good job. And she did that. And she said on the first tape, she was like, on your 22nd birthday, I'm going to start sending you a tape every single year. And she did just that. She was like, I want you to be in the same place that I am as I had you. And I want you to take this journey in the same mental state that I am going through it. I don't know how she thought that far in advance, but it was incredible. And hearing her voice so full of life, before I took so much joy out of it from being a very hard to deal with child, was also just beautiful. She was so vibrant and so happy. And I got to really hear a lot of the stuff that she was dealing with. My dad was not a very pleasant human being, my biological father. But last year, she sent me a tape that was in the envelope that had never been opened. And when I put it in the cassette player, it was a voice that I had never heard before. And it ended up being a tape from my biological father that he sent me when I was born. And he went on for 30 minutes about why he couldn't and wouldn't ever be in my life. And it drove me into some nasty spots. And I used to not be as good at talking about what I was navigating through. Even 2 years ago, there's a lot of self-discovery I did. But even 3 years ago, I used to think that a healthy way to deal with what you had to go through was to be quiet and to like get a drink. And that's not a healthy way to get through things. Because even if you're not hurting anybody around you, you're hurting yourself and you're really not getting any of this stuff out. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Kalamazoo. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. It's my birthday. I'm not going to think about this stuff. I'm just going to have fun. And I get to Kalamazoo and I don't really feel like having fun. I'm like trapped inside myself and I'm just like, I don't feel very good. And all my friends are like, come on, have fun with us. Have fun. And I'm like, if you guys get me like a designated driver, I'll loosen up a little bit, as long as I know that I have some safe way to like get to where I gotta get. And a bunch of our friends pull out phones and calling all their friends like, we gotta find Fable a designated driver. We have to find Fable a designated driver. I'm like, oh, I got the best friends in the entire world. That's how it looks at the time when you're just like, oh, they're taking care of me. But one of my friends is like, hey, I found one. I found a designated driver. His name's Bobby. I don't want to put him on blast, but nobody here knows Bobby, so it's fine. Jordan knows Bobby, though. But Bobby's like, I found a guy. He's a designated driver. And I'm like, cool. Let me meet him. Let me make sure that he's like actually good to go. And I meet the guy, and he's twitchy, but he's sober. And in the grand scheme of things, it's like the things that you want on your designated driver. It's like being able to see. Like twitchy's not on like the no list, so it's like, all right, I guess this guy will have to do. So I'm like letting loose, and I'm not getting as bad as I normally am, but I'm still letting loose, and I know that it's not good, but I continue to do it because it's like, yeah, this feels better than being sad and sitting here, which is probably what I should have done at the time. But then at the end of the night, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. And the guy's like, all right, cool. So I jump in the back of his car, and we're coming back from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids, and he sees a police officer in the median, and he says, I'm not going back to prison, and it hits the gas. And when somebody says those words and you're in the back seat of their car, you immediately sober up a lot, but you also go, this is a horrible decision. This is a bad choice. I immediately regret this decision. This is not a good choice. But the car is moving so fast down the highway that you can feel the momentum. So you're more scared than anything. And I'm like pounding on the back of the seat like, bro, you got to slow down. Bro. You got to slow down. He's like, no, man, I can't go back. And the red and blue lights are flaring behind us, and he's floating down the highway. And he goes to get off on the Gun Lake Casino exit, and he's like, I'm not going to make it. Yanks the wheel, blows through a median, and rolls it into the Gun Lake Casino parking lot. And the windows are blown out, and the airbags are out, and I remember crawling out of the car and the police officer like, get on the ground, get on the ground. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how did I get here? Like realistic, like literally and not literally, like how did I get here? And the year before, I was in like 10 different schools working with youth, getting them to talk about what they were going through. I had just begun to start talking about what I felt with my grandfather. But then once again, because I couldn't look inward and because I couldn't make myself the stable soil, I used something that got me here. And like, isn't that the irony with how self-destructive we can be as humans? We lose somebody or we're going through something and we can't talk about it, and it gets us to the point where we do not want to be. And I wrote a poem to keep me focused on why I need to continue to talk about what I'm going through, and to write it down and to not just internalize it and tear myself into pieces. And here's that poem, and it's my final poem, but here it is. Back in the day, when I was really, really young, I remember telling all the other kids at school that my dad was a superhero. And that he was just so busy saving everyone else to have any time for me. As I grew older, I referred to him as Santa Claus, a man of folklore and unfathomable presence that only really came upon the mind once or twice a year when it's cold and you're entertaining the thought of warmth. Feeling whole instead of mason jar with firefly, you see my empty spaces always lit up when I'm the darkest. Today, for what seems like the 100th time, I listen to my biological father whisper me bittersweet nothings via a cassette tape delivered in an envelope postmarked 1988. A symphony of can't do's, won't do's, should haves, and will nevers. 20 glorious minutes of why he can't and won't ever be in my life. How thoughtful of him. He should have titled it The Real Reason You Don't Have a Dad. Sit up with a kiss, or his cologne, or some sweet lovey-dovey movie stuff instead of getting my middle name wrong on the outro. A wholehearted middle finger post sucker punch below the belt. You know what? Let's throw in a biting through my cartilage cheap shot metaphor in this part right here. Nah. We'll save the beautiful imagery and fancy wordplay for a poem not about him. This isn't that poem. This will not be his poem. I will not give him something to be proud of. Why do you think I used to live my life like that? 2 parts self-abuse, 7 parts fearful of success, 1 part neglect, no part self-love, though. I wasn't going to pick up where he decided to leave off. I will leave it there on the shelf with the cape that he never chose to wear, in the closet with the other childish fantasies. 2 years ago, I thought I saw God from the back seat of a Lexus coupe. He looked like a coked out felon, smelled like fear and recovery. Chose to total a car going 100 miles an hour, make me realize that I am only a human. Had my life in his hands, opposed to my existence, disregarded he had a soul in the back seat, tried to turn a fable to an anecdote. I climbed out of a totaled car, kissing the ground the way the police like us to us. Black. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate this gift, but my life keeps spiraling out of control. I bet he's proud. I am now a hurricane of heartbreak in the ugly stuff. What am I doing here? How did I get here? So I used to ask myself so many nights, mouth tasting like, well, something, because, well, I had to use something to make myself feel better before I used someone, but I got that from him. Always rewound and played back the parts where he talked about his love life. He'd say, son, my son, I've never been any good at relationships. You can ask your mother this one day. But I never asked her. I never wanted to know. But you know what's the worst part? Is that he ended that cassette tape with a poem. Before he even knew who I'd become, he ended it with a poem. For months, I hated poetry. I would hear him speak at open mics and out of my students' mouths. I watched him turn my safe haven into this battleground of self-discovery. I fell into my vices, hoping I would land in them and wake up to just another day of picking up pieces of myself. But back in the day, when I was really, really young, I remember not being broken. I'm working to find that boy again, and when I do, I will shower him in comic books and cartoons. I will tell him not to look for his father there. I will tell him that if he gives his all to his community, to these kids, to these people, if he inspires one of them, then one day he might actually become that hero, at least to somebody. But that's why we have to try to be that soil. And that's why we have to try to be these people that nurture and grow things, even when we're too toxic to grow it ourselves. And I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you guys very much. My name is Fable the Poet.